an inside look at the restaurant industry and entrepreneurial insight to help you succeed. It's the Paper Trails Podcast with Albemarle Paper Supply.
What's going on, guys? How are ya? We are back for the Paper Trails Podcast. I am your host, Nick Caligaris-Mitros. Super pumped to have you guys plugged in, whether it's via YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, doesn't matter. We are pumped to have you guys on. We have another guest on our podcast. We've got Chef Sam Diminich. Diminich, is that right?
That's right.
All right. So, you know how it's the neighborly Italian Greek, we know how to pronounce our last names. Caligaris-Mitros.
It's a flow.
Diminich. It is. It's a flow. So, welcome back, episode 27 of the podcast. We're excited to have you guys here with us, and I'm super pumped to let you guys in on a gem of a person. I've met Chef Sam here through some mutual friends a couple weeks ago when we set up a time to chat and tell his story. And he has got an unbelievable story. I think maybe last week or 2 weeks ago we spoke and just about work ethic and success and overcoming and figuring stuff out. And, this was 7 o'clock at night and I was getting fired up in my office at my house. And I'm like, dang, this is gonna be a good episode. I'm like, I can already feel it. So anyway, I'm very excited to have him on and tell his background and his story. And then just like I do, we will pull and extract, all of the principles, so whether, you're figuring stuff out, you're 16, 17, 18 years old, trying to find a career path, or if you have an interest in food, or if you want to be a chef, or if you own a food truck, or if you own a landscape business, doesn't matter. Success principles are the same. And so you got to just apply those basic fundamental principles and that hard work and that commitment and discipline. And you too can figure some stuff out and make sure you live a prosperous, healthy, and amazing life. And so, Sam, super pumped to have you on. Thanks for hanging with us and the Paper Trails Podcast. And so let's start off from the beginning. Where are you from? How did you grow up? Tell us about your origin, your family, kind of the whole thing. How did Dad or Gramps, how did he come over from Italy? Give us the backstory.
Sure. Thanks for having me. This is great. So originally from Myrtle Beach.
Okay.
Third generation restaurant family. My grandfather came from Trieste in 1950, 51, something like that. Met my grandmother. I'll give you the Cliff Note version, but met my grandmother at a USO event. He had enlisted in Washington, D.C., and they settled back down south. And then they found their way to Little River, South Carolina.
Okay.
Which is a couple miles north of Myrtle Beach.
Yeah.
They did what a lot of people did back then and still do. They were ambitious, and they worked and they saved and they eventually bought a building that was once a bed and breakfast in the heart of Myrtle Beach. Uh-huh. They turned it into an Italian restaurant.
Nice.
So it was a cool story. They lived above the restaurant, and below was the kitchen, the dining rooms, and the bar.
So no rent. Save money. I mean, it's classic immigrant thing. I mean, that story is a pretty common. Same thing with my dad. He's the oldest of six. We came from a very poor family. My grandfather's uncle had a drive-in restaurant in West Virginia, and my dad came and used to, feed and pour coffee to all the coal miners in West Virginia going to work at 3-4 o'clock in the morning, and he'd work until the dinner shift and clean the parking lot before he left and go home and sleep for a couple hours, and saved up for 7 years and bought a portion of that restaurant and then sold it and moved down. I mean, so it's kind of the class, just you come here for an economic opportunity and you work your face off and spend no money and you eat at the restaurant, and
yeah, I mean, I loved everything about it. And it was cool. I don't remember my grandfather very much.
Uh-huh.
My grandmother was with us for a long, long time. But the stories were legendary.
I love that.
Legendary. Yeah, I mean, even me as a kid growing up, and when I was able to work with my dad and cook in the kitchen, say, for example, if I dropped a half a lemon in the garbage can, You know the deal, right?
I know exactly. Why are you wasting that? What's going on?
Yeah, he's like, get your ass in there and get my lemon out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's your tuition right there. What do you think? You know,
100%, 100%. You know, or washing what you can, or reusing what you can. So I get it. So, so you grew up in Myrtle Beach, all right? So you kind of grew up in the restaurant.
Absolutely.
So from a young age,
from the beginning,
like.
Yeah,
like,
there weren't skip the labor laws.
Yeah, there are no labor. Yeah, and when you're from Europe, there are no laws. Okay,
there are no laws, right?
Yeah, you're. You know, I remember as a kid, just picking up the pitchers, the tea and water pitchers from the table. The busboy would come clean everything up. You know, leave the tip, have the pitchers there. The only thing I would do is just grab the pitchers and bring in the back. That's all I did at 7 years old, 9 years old. So
yeah, and there's so much value in that. There really is. And you're a part of something, you know, you learn hustle. Yeah. We learn work ethic.
100%.
You know, and so that was the family way. And so that's just what we did. I'm one of 5 kids. Nice. I have 4 sisters, and all of our friends all worked in the restaurants. We had several at one point, but we all worked in the restaurants. We were waiters, we were busboys, dishwashers. You know, I'd stand on a milk crate or a glass rack. You know, and to me, that was the coolest thing ever. It's like, it's just where I wanted to be. And like the restaurant, for example, let me kind of set the room. Okay. Loud music, always. No chef coats. Okay. We were shorts, hat on backwards. We were beach people. Yeah. You know, and so loud music. And then, and there was no POS system, of course. Yeah. Written dupes. And so in between tickets and tables. Yeah. There was a basketball court out back. So there was always, you know, potential for a 3-on-3 game.
I love that.
Yeah. And like next to the basketball court, you know, was my uncle's fishing boat, you know, and then next to that was the butcher shop that we had. Nice. Where we would break down legs of veal or whatever came through our way. Nice. And so that was, there's so much to that, you know, and it should have never changed. Like that should stay the same, I think, you know, but you know, as we all know, times have changed. But the value that I found in that was I found a calling. I found a sense of belonging. Sure. You know, and obviously, you know, the work ethic, the hustle, and most importantly, the hospitality. You know, we love to take care of people, and that has never changed for me. We love to take care of people.
Do you think that's like an immigrant thing? Like my dad to this day does that. Like, my friends will come over to the house, and it's like, what can I get you? You want some coffee? You want some Greek pastry? So like it's like it's almost like a disrespect. I don't know how. I mean, I'm sure that is the same thing in Italian. Like if you go, especially if you're in Greece and you're visiting, you got to drink something. You have to eat something like even like a little cup of orange juice or something. It's like, you think just that like big heart is like part of, you know, why do you think that is actually? I mean, what?
You know, I think that's a sense of community that's instilled and you know, my grandfather for sure, my family for sure. Yeah. He wasn't from here. Yeah. You know, he'd never seen so much of his experience here was new to him. Yeah. You know, and I know that, so he embraced that, but also embraced where he came from. Yeah. You know, and so I think that's the best of both worlds within a restaurant atmosphere. So we had an Italian restaurant, you know, in a very southern town, sleepy beach town back then it was. Yeah. Anyway, you know, so we got to offer what he knew, you know, and then also have an opportunity to meet new people, be very disarming. He was a very charming man. They both were. Yeah. You know, in two very different ways. He was very southern, with southern hospitality, and he was very gregarious and out, you know, and just funny, and he would drink wine, and more people came in the back door than they did the front door. You know what I mean? Like, don't you dare go in the, you know what I mean? If you lived in Myrtle Beach, you know, obviously it was a tourism based economy, but if you lived there, don't you dare walk in that front door. You better come in the back door, and that way you can see everybody and say hi, and you know, and then we'll pour your glass of wine in the back, and then take you to your table, and then you can enjoy your experience.
Nice. Mm-hmm. So from there, how did you how'd you end up being a chef? Like, give us a story.
Yeah. Okay. So I just worked for my dad.
Okay.
That's just what we did. That's what we were expected to do. Sometimes I got paid, sometimes I didn't. Most times I didn't.
Yep.
And and so as time.
I mean, listen, we got paid. We just lived in his house. Like
Yeah,
that was
that's it.
like that was us
That's
getting
it.
paid.
That's it. My dad has this joke, and I've heard it like way too many times. But whenever we would ask him, first of all, he kept all his money in his pocket. Like there was no cash register. There was none of that shit. Right. Like if you wanted something from him, it came through him, and he's a big man. So So anyways, he used to say we'd ask him, "Hey, Dad, can I get paid for a night?" And he would look at like, "What? You know what I mean? Like,
What did you just say?
what? Paid for what? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I paid for the roof over there.
Yeah,
I paid the water bill or whatever.
Exactly.
But anyway, he would always say, I made a deal with the bank. They wouldn't sell spaghetti and I wouldn't give out money.
Oh my goodness.
I was like, oh man, you just knew it was coming. And that went on for years and years and years. But, back to kind of the beginning of my journey was, I was a high school kid washing dishes. I was surfing.
Okay.
I was smoking pot, what I mean? Just being a beach bum.
Yeah.
And I think, that's one thing that I'm super grateful of my dad for is like, he kind of saw that coming. And so when the time was right, he got me a job in this French/Southern restaurant and hotel type scenario.
Yeah.
And with a colleague of his.
Okay.
And so anyway, I always felt like I got traded like an athlete in professional sports or something. You know what I mean? Like you know what I mean? Like I came in the back door at his restaurant one day. He was like, "Yeah, you don't work here anymore, man. Yeah. You're across the street.
Yeah.
Yep. And you need a chef coat." And so anyway, so that's what I did.
What was that like? Just like getting into a different environment. I mean, coming from family, pops, like brothers, sisters, playing basketball to now it's like, well, this is another league.
Yeah, it really was. And I fell in love with it. But before all that, like I just graduated high school. That was after my junior year. And so I graduated in summer. And so I graduated in July. And I had no plans for college. Like there was no college visits. I took the SAT once. You know what I mean? Like I had no aspirations of going to school. I just thought I would just keep on doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And let the chips fall kind of where they may. But my dad was like, "Yeah, you're going to go to culinary school. You can go to community college." And so next thing I know, I'm enrolled at community college in the culinary program.
Okay.
And I have this job at a place called the Sea Island Inn, working for Mike McKinnon.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And there was a cool template. The menu changed every day. Everything was from scratch. So for the first time in my life, I'm seeing freshly baked bread. I'm seeing field stock. I'm seeing, fish butchery, whole fish butchery, from the top to the bottom, and pastry, all that. And, like I have this one memory of having fresh basil and tomatoes. I think it was probably a tomato, mozzarella, and basil salad, like a really classic combination.
Yeah.
And I then right then and there, I knew that this is where I was supposed to be. And I didn't know I'd be doing this forever. You know what I mean? It's still just a kid, but you knew right then and there, like
it felt right.
It felt right. Yeah, I was home.
I love that.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming you learned a ton there at school.
No.
Not
at that school.
No. Okay. Now back up a second. Did you learn a lot at that first hotel French restaurant? Like, was that like a big learning curve?
Definitely. I mean, I was in love with it. First of all, I was a horrible student. I didn't care. I just wasn't interested. So for the first time in my life, like I wanted to know more about that marinade. I wanted to know more about those peaches over there and why we have peaches in the summertime. You know what I mean? Like the wheels were just spinning. And how do you do that Carolina Gold rice over there? What is it all about? Because it looks different. Carolina Gold is a shorter grain with some broken grains attached to them. You know what I mean? So there were all these experiences and questions, and I was just fully immersed myself for many, many years in that restaurant with that chef. And he was a madman, but he was a good one, to learn as much as I could. And I got to eventually work all the stations. I was promoted to sous chef. And and then all while I was going to school.
So you were there for how long?
At the Sea Island Inn, at least 3 or 4 years.
Okay, so you built a solid foundation there. So then you were going to school while working there, and School, not so much. Learning, not.
Well, here's the thing: is like I was a product of my environment.
Yeah.
You know, and I didn't have, I didn't have fundamentals. I didn't know how to cook.
Yeah.
You know, so whenever I got to school, I was exposed to a certain degree, but then again, I was just a student. You know, and so being in an environment like that with fellow students that are more advanced, it gets kind of it gets kind of rough, and so I remember many times being told or ragged on or roasted, that I should find another occupation, that this isn't what I should be doing. You should be a plumber, or try accounting or something like that, because I just couldn't. There was a period there where I was just still learning, and all of this in front of me was very, very new, and I didn't have the tools or skill set, right, to apply myself to what was before me.
So what's the next chapter? What happens after that? So you're in school, you're doing that thing, you're working 3-4 restaurants, you have this amazing, I'm assuming, mentor in this executive chef. He's kind of showing you the ropes. You're building a foundation, right?
Yeah.
What's next?
Well, I learned quickly a lot, and that's, I have an immense amount of gratitude for the family that owns that restaurant and the chef himself. So I graduated community college somehow, some way, and and kept continuing my role as sous chef at the Sea Island Inn.
Okay.
There was a cooking competition that came around. It was called Taste of the Tidelands. And I think by this time it's 95, 96, in and around there.
Okay.
And so, and there was a sous chef competition as well. So there's the competition, then there's a junior chef / sous chef competition. All right. And so first place in that competition is one semester paid for at the Culinary Institute of America.
Okay. So you entered it?
I entered it and won.
Nice. Were you expecting to win? Like
I can't say yes or no, but I was hoping I would. You know what I mean? So,
did you think that you had a chance? Like, were you like, you know what? Like this is possible? Like,
probably not. Probably not.
You were like, you know what? This would be a good experience. Let me kind of scope it out, see what this competition is about.
Yeah.
Do you remember what you made?
I don't. I really don't.
What you won?
I won, yeah. And the dean of students was one of the judges, Ferdinand Metz. Yeah. He's the dean of students at the CIA at the time.
So one semester paid for, so you're like, I'm going back to school? Like, how did is that how it went?
Pretty much, yeah. But see, it's a 2-year deal, and it's about $60,000. So that was one semester, out of 5. So and also back then, it wasn't like it is now, where you can just apply, cut a check, and boom, there you are. I had to be vetted, and so they sent an alumni down. This very, very nice man, his name was Sal, to come down and interview me, interview my employer, and see whether or not they felt like I was prepared to come up and be a student at the Culinary Institute of America. And so it took, and I didn't have any money, so I had to save, and as much as I could. So that took a while, maybe even a year.
So do you like that form of, because that's a lot different than today, like going to school today. Is that good? Like
it's
vetting
great.
Somebody and like having
it's great.
The proper people there?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, why would it be any other way?
I was just, yeah.
You know what I mean? But it is. It's everything's different now. It's dollars and cents. If you go up to the Culinary Institute of America right now, everything is sponsored.
Yeah.
The sidewalk is sponsored. The staircase is sponsored. You know what I mean? So it's not that that's good or bad. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
They got bills to pay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But back then, what it did was it kind of set the table for me, as far as like, as I mentioned before, I wasn't a good student. I didn't have, very good discipline, but it set the table for me on when I arrived on campus to be prepared as to the best of my ability.
Sure.
And so I was a good student. Like, I went up there and I worked a full-time job, which was great. And I got to be a student at the Culinary Institute of America, which I think is a privilege. It opened a lot of doors for me. I met a lot of people. I got to travel. Yep. I'd never really been anywhere. It was the first time on a plane, which is, there's a hilarious story behind that one as well. But I put my life in a trunk and then put it on a plane, and then got to JFK, and then the trunk came down like the chute or whatever else, and everything came out, and like a beach, like just a Italian redneck, like trying to put everything in his trunk so he can figure out what to do next, in this airport. And
that's funny.
My first time flying. But no, I mean, the school, I was prepared. That's to answer your question. It prepared me, which is what it should be. Like, because so much of cooking and hospitality, success lies in being prepared.
It's true. It's true. I mean, in anything you do, in anything, you got to go in with the mindset of, you know what, let me extract as much info as I can from this experience, whether it's a meeting, an event, a conference, a school, so I like that. So it sounds like you were in a different mindset, like going up there. You're ready to learn, right?
Yeah, I was definitely excited. I felt a lot of nerves. I didn't want to blow it, to a certain degree.
Yeah.
And I wanted to see what I could do, whether or not this would be for me.
Yeah.
At this point, I still wasn't sure.
So what happens next?
So I could just get to campus and immediately, I'm just in love with the atmosphere, the campus vibe, the instructors, the proximity to Manhattan, and the surrounding area. It's really pretty. CIA is up in the Catskill Mountain area. So you have, obviously you have the city, which is an hour and a half away. You have Socrates and Woodstock, all that, and some very, very beautiful country a few miles to the west. So I just loved it. And I got away. Like, I'd only known, I could only see the world like through this optics.
Yep.
Right. And so I didn't, I traveled for the first time and it was amazing.
Did you like New York?
You know what? That experience in New York wasn't great. It was good, but not great because I never had any money, and my sister lived there, and we had some good times together. But for me, like I wasn't going out, I wasn't eating, and I was literally, just trying to get by at the time.
Yeah.
I've had trips since then where, I've been able to immerse myself in arts, and food, in the overall scene and enjoyed it very much so.
Nice. All right, so you go to school. You're out there for a couple of years.
Yeah.
You knock that out. Where does life take you? Where are you at?
Well, I got to mention Lebec Finn in Philadelphia.
Okay.
That's where I did my apprenticeship. So you go 2 semesters at CIA. The third semester is your apprenticeship.
Okay.
4 and 5 are back on campus.
Okay.
So I went to Lebec Finn in Philadelphia, which at that point was like the French Laundry.
Okay.
French restaurants, probably on the East Coast, but
so if
it had quite a history.
If people don't know, French Laundry or any, like what, like explain to the audience. I mean, these are like
the standard bearers of
the best, creme de la creme, like the top, French Laundries in California,
Napa.
In Napa,
actually Yountville.
So I mean, it's from what I've heard, I mean, absolutely spectacular, and so
3 Michelin stars for years. They're the standard bearers. That is the gateway to, excellence in dining and service.
And so you're at the East Coast, right? Version of that. What was that like?
It was intense. I mean, it was really, really intense. Like intense enough to where I would park my car and I'd be 5 blocks away and I'd be nervous 5 blocks away, and at this point still, I am still trying to figure things out.
Yeah.
By no means am I even an accomplished cook, much less a chef.
Yeah.
Whatever that means.
Yeah.
So I'm an apprentice.
Yeah.
I'm doing apprentice things. I'm peeling tomatoes. I'm chopping chives. I'm trying to assist all the while, learn as much as I can on the line.
Did you learn a lot while you were there?
I learned more there in 6 months than I did probably in 2 years at CIA.
No kidding.
Yeah, but that's the value in the education, though.
Just because it was practical, because you were there actually like on the front lines, like working and kind of seeing that.
Correct. Yeah, and I mean, it was a 5-diamond experience. So nothing short of perfection would pass. So that's a lot of it's a lot of things. It's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of focus. Like you really just have to put your head down and go to work, and be willing, to take some shit.
Yeah.
Like, I took some shit, man. I took a lot of shit, there's a lot of stuff. They used to say what happens in Lebec Finn stays in Lebec Finn, but I was, you know what I mean? Like flying through the air, just the environment of, George Perrier was the chef there. He was loud. He made his presence known, and if you made a mistake or sent something out that was subpar, it didn't meet standards, he let you know it. A lot.
Wow.
A lot. And so anyway, but that's what you sign up for. So there's no reason to bitch, complain, or be anything, indifferent about that particular situation. Is it how I run my kitchens now? No, it's not at all.
Yeah, but I think it maybe gave you a sense of that standard. I mean, I don't know. Like, I mean, I'm just listening. I've never been in that environment. I'm just listening to you talk about it, and I'm like,
yeah,
wow. Like, I mean, this is perfection, excellence every single time, consistently, plate after plate. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, if it's not right, throw it out. Start again.
Wow.
But I've been doing this for 4 hours, chef. I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? Like, this is the way it is.
Yeah.
If you don't like it,
Yeah.
you know, thank you anyway.
Yeah.
Who's next?
Hit the door. Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay. All right. So semester there, a ton of learning, ton of experience. You know, you're on the front lines learning from, these amazing chefs and their presence. And so you finish school, and then you stay in New York, you go back to Myrtle Beach. How, where does your story continue?
So the Lebec thing is like, you got to remember, like 3 years prior, 4 years prior, I was just on the beach.
Yeah.
And cooking for my dad or whatever. And so now I'm in this restaurant in Philadelphia. So I'm getting a taste of possibilities, and potential.
Yeah.
And so I wanted more of that.
Yeah.
So I went back to school. I graduated. The thing about the Culinary Institute of America is they graduate classes every 3 weeks, and then there's an incoming class every 3 weeks. So that's the rotation. My graduation date was December 19th, 1999. So I was the last class of that century, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And so we did the graduation, and we drove down, and soon after that, I was back at the CLNN in Myrtle Beach.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. To continue, they had assisted with some of the tuition. So I had to come back and fulfill my obligation.
Yeah. So, like, as you're going through this process, are you like calling dad and be like, Dad, you can't believe where, like, I mean, is there any of, like, could you even fathom? I mean, because I know you said just 3 years you were just, on the beach surfing, and now you're at, this, I mean, is there like any, like, or is there just so much going on? You don't even have time to like realize what's happening. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's the full spectrum of the experience and all the emotions that lie within the experience. You know what I mean? Like excitement, nervousness, fucking scared.
Yeah.
Anxiety,
like
next. Yeah. Or ego. There's a lot of ego, because at that point, I had successfully completed my apprenticeship at Lebec Finn.
Yeah.
And I was invited back, which is really all you can ask for. If they don't invite you back, that means you probably didn't perform.
Yeah.
So you don't get a plaque, you don't get a ribbon. It's like, hey, if you want a job, you can come back.
Nice.
And be a part of this. My situation was different because I already had obligations back in Myrtle.
Sure.
I couldn't do that, but I was still very, very proud to be able to be, completing a successful apprenticeship.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, so then you graduate culinary school, and then there's that part of you that's like, it's just like, I don't know if it's like default behavior or personal expectations or accumulated ego along the way. Is that that you have arrived.
Yeah.
And so I can't deny, like, that was certainly part of it. And so I went back to Myrtle Beach and cooked for a period of time, and then soon after that,
was the same chef there?
he was there.
Nice.
He was there. Yeah, he was there.
I'm sure he saw a huge transformation in you from a young kid, not knowing, just, mom and pop restaurant, I mean, yeah. And then now you just, I mean, I don't know, that's kind of cool, actually.
It was cool. It was a good experience. But I felt the sense that I needed to be somewhere else.
Yeah, move on.
At the same time, yeah. And so I had this opportunity in Washington, D.C., so I went.
Okay.
And I went to D.C. and to a place called The Ledges. And a friend of mine from school was a sous chef there. I would be a line cook. And one of his friends was chef owner. And so that was in 2001, right? And so we all know what happened in 2001.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was up there for 9/11. And so while my
what
time...
was that like?
Well, that was... Everything just shut down. Everything just shut down. Where we lived was very, very close to the Pentagon. So it was very scary. Very scary. I mean, it was a lot of things.
Yeah.
It was a lot of things. I can put it to you this way. We went to go and check on the restaurant the day of 9/11. We had a bunch of shellfish or something like that we had to ice down.
Yeah.
The restaurant was in Virginia, Leesburg, Virginia. So it was about 20 minutes to the west of D.C. And I remember going on a Cloverleaf or getting on our exit or whatever and looking over and seeing the surface air missile within the Cloverleaf itself. Like missile system set up or whatever,
yeah.
So that was like alarming.
Wow. So you were in DC for how long?
Just about a year.
Nice. How was that experience? What'd you learn there? What'd you get from that stop?
I learned that what I thought I knew, I didn't, and there was so much work to be done, and the chef that I thought I was, I wasn't. The line cook that I thought I wasn't.
Really?
Yeah, because you see like these guys, you get to work alongside these guys that have been doing this at a very high level for a long period of time.
Yeah.
Whether it's line cooking, the avenue of ideas, the front of the house. It's like I'm watching all of this, and taking all of it in. And of course you can't help, as a young person or a young cook, to measure yourself against what you're seeing, right?
Yeah.
So it's clearly there's more work to be done. Not in a way that it was like self-defeating or anything, but I was more inspired and I wanted to be better.
So it was a little humbling, but then also inspiring. Like, okay, cool. Like I've got a different level in me.
Yeah.
I like
definitely.
that.
I need it, and I was at that point in my life where I feel it now, where I was like, bring it. I want more. I want to be relentless about this. And so that's, but all that stems back to, I think, my childhood coming up in the restaurant, and even like being one of 5 kids, like you have to do what you got to do to get attention. You know what I mean? I had to do what I had to do to be able to cook next to my uncles and my dad and whoever's in the restaurant.
Yeah.
I had to do what I had to do.
Yeah.
To move forward in life. And so that was, I felt the same way then.
That's interesting. I think it's something that people can draw from. You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of times that you can be maybe a big fish in a little pond, and then you said something earlier that I thought was interesting. That the more that you learn, the more that you kind of grow an ego about. You said something to that effect, and I'm like, I never thought about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's a good perspective, very good perspective on, no matter what career you have, industry you're in, have a little piece of humble pie and just be like, all right, cool. You know what? There's different levels to everything, and you can always learn and you can always push a little harder. And, I like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There's no finish line in cooking. There never will be.
In anything, honestly.
There's no finish line in sobriety.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, I didn't know any, I was, sober curious back then, but, and I bring it up now just because of the parallel, but yeah, I mean, I realized then and there, it was like, I can do this, I've just got to put my head down and go to work. I'm watching and I'm learning and all the while I have this, internal like desire to get better as good as I get.
Yeah. I like that. Okay. So you're in DC for about a year. You're learning, you're seeing there's levels to this. I guess that was your first job after kind of school, besides obviously, the obligations you had back in Myrtle Beach.
That was the big move.
That was it. That was the big boy job, so to speak, right?
Yeah, that was the big move. And then our last shift, obviously after 9/11, everything shut down in that whole area.
Yeah.
And so we, we couldn't make it. So we made our last dinner service was New Year's Eve, 2001. And so soon after that, I moved back to my hometown of Myrtle Beach.
Okay.
I was a waiter. I went back and waited tables for my dad.
Okay.
Again, a humbling experience, until I could figure out what was next. And of course at that time, the whole country is like, adjusting and
at a standstill.
Yeah. I mean, it was not a lot of opportunity. Not really, nobody was really even in the space to consider that. And so always, at that point it was like, we're, assessing and doing our best to come together and heal.
Yeah. I was in high school when that happened, and so I was old enough that I can understand and kind of like, okay, this is kind of a big deal. You know what I mean? Because but okay, all right. So you're back home. What's the next stop for Sam? Where
Well, I met my children's mom.
Okay.
There, which is I think it's a really cool part of my journey. 9/11, this huge tragedy on a national level and a global level.
Yep.
And everything kind of fell apart for me in DC, but I moved back and I wound up meeting their mom.
Okay.
And now we're not together anymore, but
yep.
We're co-parents, friends, and we have 2 beautiful children.
Awesome.
Yep, 17 and 13.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So without 9/11, you have to ask,
yeah,
would that have even happened? And so so I have an immense amount of gratitude, for everything that happened, the way it happened, and how it unfolded, and it also gave me. This cool perspective that out of tragedy comes triumph. right? And we can talk about that, in 2020 later on in
Sure.
this conversation. But
Yeah,
out of tragedy comes triumph.
100%. I mean, when one door closes, another one opens, kind of that same philosophy. So I like that. Okay. All right. So continuing, what's next? So
Yes.
DC, Myrtle Beach, then what? How do you,
Well, I opened a restaurant called Aspen Grill. I was
Okay.
there for about maybe a year
in Myrtle Beach?
in Myrtle.
Okay.
And then we moved to Raleigh. I
Okay.
pursued a position there. At about this point, we really haven't touched on it, but substance abuse had begun consuming me.
Okay.
Consuming my life.
Okay.
And this started at a root. I started drinking and using drugs at a very young age.
Okay.
Preteen, and so at this point, it's getting out of hand.
Sure.
It's completely unmanageable. And
Are you noticing it's unmanageable?
oh yeah, definitely. And so we went to DC. We went to Raleigh.
Yeah.
Worked at Angus Barn, and that quickly dissipated. As a consequence of where I was and the progressiveness of the disease that I believe I have.
Yep.
Being alcoholic and an addict.
Yep.
And so from there I went to treatment.
Okay.
So I went to treatment. I went to it was a 2-stop treatment center. One was in Raleigh, and another one was in in the mountains of North Carolina called a place called Hope Valley.
Okay.
And at that point, Tracy and the kids moved to Charlotte. So that's really how I got to Charlotte.
Okay.
I went to treatment, and then I returned, to be with them. And from there, I began cooking in and around the city.
Nice. So what was your first stop, or what was your experience like working in Charlotte? Was it
First stop was Dakotas, which is now New South.
okay?
Worked for Chris, and his wife.
Nice.
And it was a great experience. It was an absolutely wonderful experience, and it was exactly what I needed when I needed it.
Nice. And then you were there for how long?
I was there maybe about a year, maybe
Cool.
a year and a half. And then I moved on. I think I was with Gene Briggs at Blue next as a line cook and then a sous chef.
Nice.
And Blue, we also opened Table, which was in Ballantyne, and so I was part of the opening team there as well.
Nice. Okay. All right. And then after that?
Then I moved on and got a job with Tom Condren with what was then the Harper's Group. It's
Okay.
now Burke Hospitality at Upstream. So that was my first tenure at Upstream. So this is probably 2007.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I was there for, maybe 6 months, and I got promoted there to be the chef de cuisine at ARPA, Spanish tapas restaurant that was in downtown.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. And then how's that experience? How was that, the promotion, being there with Tom, how was that? How was that whole
Yeah. Well, I mean, working with Tom, I take something from every chef that I work for. Chris was very blue collar. My dad's very blue collar. Mike McKinnon back at the Sea Island, he could do it all. He could really do it all. So I was constantly like watching him, taking notes. When I got to Upstream, I got to work next to Tom Condren. Tom Condren would work from like 5 a.m. Until midnight and get up and do it again.
Wow.
And he, it was a situation where he was like this guy who was iconic in the city at the time. I think, because of his success and the restaurants that he was able to helm, but he's also very blue collar. And so that was like the switch flipped on my identity of who I wanted to be and how I wanted to go about being a chef. Did I want to be in the office, in charge of admin, holding a clipboard, sometimes cooking, or did I want to be in the middle of it? And I'm super grateful for Tom because I wanted to be in the middle of it. I wouldn't want to fucking be anywhere else, man.
Sounds like the work ethic this guy's got next level. 5 to midnight, like.
Yeah, definitely.
Wow.
Tom's a madman, but a sweet person. He took me under his wing.
Nice.
My time at Upstream was as brief as it was. I didn't have a lot of experience with Japanese cooking, Chinese cooking, or any of the Koreas, even Thai. So it was my first, I tiptoed into the waters of, Asian cuisine.
What was that like?
It can be overwhelming, to be honest with you, but if you approach it, things like that, things that are overwhelming, in incrementally, then it helps a lot of, the unknown makes sense, soy, soy sauce obviously is salt, it's sodium, and it's a liquid, but if you have mirin, which is a sweet wine, then you have salt and you have sweet, and then you have contrasting flavors. So that began the process of of understanding flavor rather than following recipes. That was huge.
Interesting.
Yeah, I didn't have a choice. You know, you had to figure this out.
I like that.
Yep.
I like that.
And so now, like my, I have recipes, but I don't cook by recipe. You know, I like ratios, and a lot of that began working for Tom at Upstream because it forced me to understand what the effects of, you know, the makeup of miso, for example, or different vinegars and fruit, you know, soy, you know what I mean? Like, so I developed this flavor compass that I use now. It's very, very important.
Nice. Okay. And so let's maybe fast forward. Now, you were Upstream, you know, up until last year?
Yeah. Okay. So, so my second tenure at Upstream was 3 years in the making.
Okay.
So I was there for about 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, so I was up until March of 2020.
And then 2020 happens. We have the pandemic. The restaurant industry took an absolute beating, especially fine dining, catering companies. If you're not built for takeout, you know, give us your perspective on kind of the last year. But, you know, I've seen working with restaurants, if you're not built for takeout, it really hurt.
Yeah, you suffered.
You know, and so, give us.
Upstream was a fine dining restaurant, and 2020 was shaping up to be our year. I know a lot of people say that, but it was shaping up to be our year. We spent, the 2 previous years putting together a management team, a service team. The food was absolutely coming together. You know, we were getting some recognition.
Yeah.
I'd been on the Food Network, you know, so we had a little bit of, carryover recognition from that.
Nice.
And also the shopping center, Phillips Place Shopping Center, was being renovated, and it became current.
Yeah.
You know, it was kind of dated.
Yeah.
And so we're all excited about 2020, but, COVID had other plans.
Yep.
And, my experience with that, it was this. I wasn't dialed into COVID. I wasn't dialed into the pandemic. I was dialed into Upstream and making sure that my restaurant was headed in the right direction on all levels. And so whenever all of that happened, I was completely caught off guard, so it was a very, very personally, very, very difficult situation for me.
Yep. So, so the restaurant closes?
Yeah, I mean, that Sunday prior to, we had a meeting, so we were going to close for lunch to save labor dollars, and to kind of tighten the reins a little bit, so we could weather ourselves through this situation.
Sure.
And then by that Tuesday, I think it was Tuesday, we'd closed down. It was over. It was fucking over, man. And so that was a really, really hard day. It was an extremely difficult day to bring in the entire staff, to have this meeting. The people that I'm responsible for.
Sure.
And I had asked so much of, for so long, to partner with me on this mission, to break the news to them that, look, we're gonna shut this thing down, and we don't know when we're gonna open back up. We love you.
And
I don't know what's going to happen next. That was the hardest part, is just not having answers, for the people that we care about, our team members, our family. It really was a family.
100%. I mean, and imagine how many of those conversations had to happen across the country, right? I mean, it's like I said, our industry took a beating.
It did.
Right?
It did.
So, but like you said, through fire and through, there's always triumph through, what was the
tragedy?
Through tragedy. So what happened?
Well, at this point, I got to say I'm 5 years sober at this point, so I have tools.
Give us some insight on that. Tell us about that. So, I mean, I know that's a huge victory, right?
I would say so. Yes. Yeah. I mean, I'd struggled and I had periods of absence in my life, but no, sustainable sobriety. And so by 2013, 2014, I'd succumbed to my addiction. I'd left my family. I was on the street. I was a homeless person. We see them all the time. Homeless populations is prevalent here in Charlotte now. You see my intersection, everything else. That was me, right? And as a consequence of my actions, so that's super important. So yeah, I mean, I went to treatment. I was lucky enough to get into treatment in the fall of 2014, and from there, I was able to find a program, not find a program, but apply myself to a program. That I was unable to apply myself to prior to, and I found sobriety.
Nice.
Yeah. But I mean, the biggest thing for me on that, and is worth mentioning is that had to be my number one priority. So I don't identify as a chef. I even identify as a parent, as much as I love my kids. identify as a sober person, you know, and from there, everything else, we kind of touched on this earlier.
Yeah.
Everything else is on the table, you know, and I'm getting results.
Love
You know,
that.
by that approach.
Love
you know,
that.
I have a great relationship with my children. I have obviously a great relationship with cooking, with food, you know, and a lot of. I'm just so glad I didn't write my own script.
Yep.
You know what I mean? I say
Yep.
that all the time, but I'm so glad I didn't write my own script because, you know, the life I envisioned for myself living sober 6 years ago wouldn't hold a candle to the life that I have now, you know, and all the doors that have opened up and opportunities and you know, the possibilities for the future.
That's a really good suggestion and thought process for anybody listening to this, right?
Yeah.
Don't write your own. I mean, you don't know how good life can be.
You don't.
I mean, you really don't.
You don't, you know, and the cool thing about that, you know, on like the spiritual angle or, you know, that inner dialogue that we have with ourselves sometimes, is that it's okay to be wrong. You know, I was wrong about so many things, you know, and I spent my life not wanting to be wrong. I wanted to be right, you know, and so I found a lot of comfort, safety, and security, and the fact that I can be wrong and the sky won't fall, and you know what I mean, and I'll lose everything. It was okay to be wrong, and so now, you know, when I'm wrong, you know, I have my own personal resume to reflect on, and you know, and know and have faith that it's okay to be wrong. Man.
Yeah.
It's okay to be wrong.
I remember
we can learn so much from being wrong, you know, and grow.
I mean, you learn more from your failures, or, you know, than you do from your successes. I remember reading a spiritual book many, many years ago, and I remember saying just some things you just won't get and you won't understand. And so it's okay to have a filing cabinet with a folder in it that's actually labeled "I don't know."
That's right.
And like I don't understand this. Just put it in there, close the cabinet, and you're good. Keep plugging away. And I was like, you know what? That's interesting. Like that happens a lot. Like you don't know why this happened, or why did this happen to me, or why am I in this? Okay, hey, we don't know. Put in that folder, close the cabinet, and keep plugging away. You know what I mean?
Right. Yep. Yep.
So anyway,
So you know, back to March of 2020.
sure.
You know, I have my family to thank, and even especially my sisters. You know, I have 4 sisters.
Shout out to the sisters.
Shout out to the sisters, right? You know, that have hustled. We all had to hustle.
That's awesome.
You know, I mean, we had this great family opportunity, but it wasn't always wonderful. You know, so we all had to hustle and find our way through life, and so it was cool to have a front row seat to such amazing people that have been so influential to me.
Love that.
You know, and so whenever I was furloughed, you know, I went straight to Amazon, the warehouse, and got a job
Nice.
there. And I was the last person that day. I brought my son with me. I mean, it was a scene. There was a line around the corner, you know, and you got to understand at this point, I don't know how long COVID's going to last.
Yeah.
You know, all I know is
None of us
I'm
do.
able.
Yeah.
You know, I want to work. I don't want to go on unemployment. I don't fucking want to check.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I want to be able to earn my way through life. And you know,
Wow,
I joke all
that.
the time that I had just gotten my daughter Invisalign, and you know, and I would cry thinking about having to turn her Invisalign back in and let her down, you know, because I was away from them for so long.
Yeah.
And, you know, here I'm back in their life, and all they want, you know, is and deserve is, you know, stability. And so anyway, so that was my thought process, man. I wanted to keep the lights on in my apartment, not get my car obsessed, pay my daughter's Invisalign bill, you know, and see what happens next. So I got a job at Amazon. But here's the thing with Amazon. Amazon couldn't start me for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So that's March 17th, I think. And so they couldn't start me for 2 weeks. Had they started me that day, we wouldn't be sitting here right now, I guarantee you. So within that 2 week period, I was I think maybe even the next night I was at a friend's house cooking. I had some great, I had a great steak, and I had a bunch of vegetables from the farm. And so I'm grilling, I'm looking at the vegetables, I'm looking at the steak, and I'm like, why can't I just cook for people? If I could cook for, you know, if I made 10 meals a day, 3 courses each, you know, I could pay my bills, you know, until Upstream opened back up. And so that was the genesis. That was the very beginning of Your Farm's Your Table, you know. And so anyway, so that's how the business that I have now started. Your Farm's Your Table. It was a sunny afternoon. I remember everything about that day. I'm cooking, I'm grilling, and I'm like, the wheels are spinning, and I'm like, what is next? You know what I mean? Like, you know, how can I serve?
Yeah.
And I got to say this too, like a farmer friend of mine, Isaac from Harmony Ridge Farms, had called, reached out, and was just desperate. You know, he didn't know what he was going to do. He just lost 26 wholesale accounts in downtown Charlotte and in the surrounding areas. He had a season full of crops, and you know, he just didn't know what his next step was going to be, and he was very fearful, very, very fearful of the future. And so, taking that in consideration, I knew that, you know, being a sober person, service is vital. And so, I guess the next step kind of came naturally, you know, from being a part of the life I live now.
Yeah.
You know, so it was a cool opportunity to serve my community, keep the farmers and, you know, the people, my clientele from upstream or wherever, connected through this thing, and you know, and see what we can do about it.
I mean, there was so much right there that I love to unpack. I mean, that was, I mean, just number one for everybody listening to this. You know, if you want to succeed, the first thing you have to have is you have to have desire to succeed. I mean, you wanted nothing else but to make sure that you earned everything and that you were gonna pay your bills and the stability in your life would continue, so much so that you were like, I don't care what I got to do. Amazon, cook, doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. This is happening. Mm-hmm. And I think there's so much people can draw from that. Mm-hmm. That, you know, I mean, maybe you are in a little valley right now and you're listening to this. You know what? If you have a desire to get out of it, you will. You can.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's one thing that sobriety has taught me, is to be accountable. You know, we have to be accountable, you know, and so I know that, you know, and I think once you know that, you can't really unknow that. You can try to, but you can't unknow that, you know, and so as fluid as that situation was early on, you know, in this second half of March, all I knew was that, you know, there's got to be something out there. We've got to do something, you know, and I knew that I could cook. You know, and I knew that people were probably going to need meals, and I knew that the farmers and local suppliers needed support. And also, there's this Chick-fil-A near my house, and so every day I would ride by this Chick-fil-A, and I would see this line of cars waiting to go in. They're double or triple drive-through, whatever it was. Yep. You know, and I would just see that, and as a parent, as a member of our community, you know, as a sober person, you know, and that lit a fire in me that. You know, I still have to this day, as far as like, you know, just being relentless about the mission of community service and recovery in the community through food.
Yeah, and if Chick-fil-A can do it, you can do it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, but no means like from the perspective as an activist, you know, I can reach people through food. That's what I do. That's really the only thing I can do. You know, so that was the direction that was shown to me, and all I had to do was really be able to be receptive to receive the message.
Love that. So let's talk about, you says your
farms,
your farms, your table, and that's your website.
That's my business.
Your business.
That is my website. And
your website. And so, explain to the audience what exactly you do if they want to find out more, or if they want to, you know, eat some of the amazing meals from Chef Sam. What exactly are you doing right now?
Well, okay, from the beginning, it was. We work 6 days a week, cook 6 days a week. The menu changes every day. And the reason why the menu changes every day is because if we're going to support the farmers like we say we do, like a lot of people say they do,
sure,
you know, I can't corner them on 1 or 2, 3 or 4 or 5, 6 ingredients. You know what I mean? Like, I want to be able to support them without strings attached to it. So you grow whatever it is you grow. I'll come to you, your farm. I have a voice now because, you know, I've been a chef in Charlotte, and I've been on the Food Network. You know what I mean? So I want to tell your story. I want to know more about you. I want to know, you know, what's your daily life like? How long you've been doing this?
Yeah.
Why do you grow this?
Yeah.
You know, and so anyway, so all of that's encompassing, you know, in the food and how I cook it, and the reason why the menu changes every day. So the menu changes every day, Monday through Saturday. We do 3 courses for $30. So I ripped that off of Restaurant Week, you know, and but more than that, it's I want whatever it is I do to be all inclusive. If I'm going to be community, right, and I can serve Myers Park, I also want to be able to serve the west side of Charlotte.
Yeah,
you know, or any other potentially underprivileged neighborhoods and clientele. So
Yep.
if I'm going to do this, then and I'm going to be all about community, then I have to be all about the whole community and not just like, from this, profit-based motivation. You know what I mean? Like, like it has to be. I want anybody and everybody to enjoy what we do.
Yep. So if they want to place orders, where do they go?
Oh, they go to my website. Your Farm's Your Table.
Your Farm's Your Table. If you want to support Sam and his mission and his cause and what he's doing, you can place your orders, right? And then they'll deliver. You'll deliver it.
Yeah. I mean, that's another thing too. Is I mean, we cook it, we box it, we deliver it safely. We can even do contactless delivery to your door. So in this era of COVID and quarantine and safety, we're going to bring you community. We're going to bring you a message through food. We're going to try to keep you connected to our local suppliers that we need desperately to be around whenever we get through this thing.
100%. I love that. Sam, as we wrap up, parting thoughts, man. What are your thoughts, to business owners, entrepreneurs out there? What would you say to them? What encouragement, inspiration? I'll put it back in your court. Parting thoughts. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all about intention. What is your intention? Is your intention to make money, or is your intention to serve? My intention is to serve. And that's been very fruitful for us. Along the way, as we learn, we've grown, and we've been able to expand. So our intention is not. I left corporate, and I will not return to corporate. And so my intention is not to make money. My intention is to serve. And so really, it's all about intention. Like, are you passionate about what you do? If not, you might want to look into that. But if you are passionate about what you do, then be passionate about what you do and not passionate about the bottom line. And I think you'll find unlimited success that way.
Love that. Brother, thank you.
I
think this was amazing. Hope you guys enjoyed. What a story. What a background. I mean, there is so much. We've been here about an hour, and I'm like, we probably could talk for another hour on we could just, but we got to go work. We got stuff to do, but hope you guys enjoyed it. Absolutely amazing. Chef Sam Diminich with his company and his business. Support him, find him. Instagram, on the different platforms.
At Chef Sam Diminich.
At Chef Sam Diminich. Find him, follow him. He's doing some big things. And so episode 27 in the books. I think this was amazing. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Like, comment, subscribe, share. Man, if you haven't subscribed already, what are y'all thinking? What's going on right now? Do it. Hit the little button. Anyway, like all the YouTubers say, right? Hit the little bell. But anyway, I love it. Appreciate it so much. And you guys have an absolutely amazing rest of your day. Thank you.